Yeah, hello everybody. I hope
Hi,
you can hear us. We have a guest, special guest, and it's Russian collusion day today, and just we just figured out it's just not very many Russians today in the internet, so we just gathered all in the same place on the same topic. And here we go. We have Celnazor channel or
Google Vision.
Global Vision channel right now. Hello, how are you?
Hi, Philip. It's a Global Vision with you, and I'm glad that finally I can talk to you directly.
Oh, I don't know. It's finally or just the first time. So
Finally, I
time
got you.
time will show. So
Yeah.
okay. Um, just tell us a little bit about yourself. What are you researching? How can you how did you get into this topic? For how long are you researching, right?
I've been researching for quite a long time, for more than 10 years. I started from different areas, from science fiction, from mysteries, from real history, really some topics, because I've read some Russian researchers, other researchers. They were researching mud flood and real history and fake histories and so on. And our science researchers who made some inventions about free energy devices and so on. And I asked a question: why everything is like this in our world? So I started to dig, and finally I got some results, and I decided to share some results with the people. And then I started to make some videos about a year ago. And actually, I have more than 100 videos at the moment at my channel. So you're welcome to watch my two channels, one in Russian, one in English, and Global Vision is in English. So my recent videos mostly dedicated some uh, pre-flood, before mud flood technologies of our human civilization, because I have a theory that we are invaded, actually. And mud flood is a result of nuclear bombardment of our Earth, actually. And mud flood is a result of trillions of tons of glue falling down with rain and so on. So you can watch everything on my channel. And also about some technologies, free energy technologies, devices, antennas, and so on, of our previous civilization, especially some resonating technologies and sound technologies we had in the past.
Okay, so we're quite an opponent in case of the cause of this event because
Mhm.
I try to stick to more obvious
Mhm.
evidence, not just some claims about the nuclear war because nothing really does support the nuclear weapon
Mhm.
theory. But we see some craters, right? So
Yeah, a lot
uh,
of them.
and
Round lakes,
yeah, but
melted stones, and so on.
the craters could be, composed with the gas bubbles, so or the mud volcanoes also can create craters also. So we see some bunch of evidence of that, and but we don't see any evidence of the clay falling from the sky actually. So uh, since like 50 years or even more, no case of clay falling from the skies, but
Exactly.
each and every day we see mud flowing from the mud volcanoes. So I mean, I try to be more obvious than
Yeah,
I don't
I
find
understand.
any. Yeah, so maybe there was a war, but could that be actually creating something like a mud flow or clay coming from the sky? Did we have any examples of that in recent times? No.
It
So
was ash, but okay, we can.
so ash is also good explanation, but where you get so many ash? I mean,
Explosions,
explosions don't get
trees,
any.
huge trees, and so on. Everything
You mean
was
the evaporation of the
evaporation
moisture,
of everything.
but
Melted
it doesn't.
stones, evaporated stones.
Yeah, the heavy particles don't get in the air that easy. So if we talk about volcanoes, like what they call volcanoes, we see some only small amount of total weight of the eruption are going in the air, just like very slight percentage, like we cannot even
Philip,
mark it. Yeah.
most known, most famous crater in the world, Eye of Sahara, in desert, in Africa.
Yeah, but it
It's
could.
crater. It's 300 megatons. It's huge amount. We cannot even imagine.
Yeah, but I checked
Capacity.
about this Eye of Sakura you're talking about, and it
Yeah.
looks like just a hole with the water was spinning, spilling the water into the onto the ground, and it looks like a circle structure that we see when you go
With
to your,
melted stones.
not the melted soil. You go everywhere and you have a hole with
Okay.
water.
Okay.
Put it on the ground. You see all those round circles from the spilled part of the water. They get bigger, 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 and you see this structure each and everywhere. You pour the water onto the ground. So
Just
I'm
like
talking
air
about
explosion. It's just my theory. I stick on it. Yeah.
yeah, air
I'm
explosions have
addicted.
air explosions have in suction areas with those little
Yes. Yes.
hills, and
Exactly.
Eye of Sakura
Yes.
doesn't have any, so it has.
It has circles.
No, but it has flat surface. Air explosion supposed to have something, sticking into the from the ground in the middle. But this one has totally flat surface with the round trenches around it. So it's like
Exactly.
a little
Like
bit
I
different.
will explain you later. It's exactly a huge explosion.
It
No.
looks like a flow, just a flow as we see from the dredging, where ships dredging the
Mhm.
rivers. They have all those systems to pump up the sand and all those mud from the river
Yes.
onto
Exactly.
some ships and stuff like this. So this looks like exactly like this, like they were dredging the Mediterranean Sea and pouring all this sand and mud onto the Sakura Eye, and it was flowing from that place. If you look at the Google Maps, it looks
Yeah.
exactly like the flow from that place. So I mean, I stick to more obvious mining theory than to war, because war could be, but who would be
Okay.
destroying the profit?
Okay.
You know,
What equipment could make it? Huge
any type of equipment we have right now sticks to this, rotor excavation, dredging.
size.
So it's like it's easily explained, but
It must be 1 kilometer pipe for second.
it could be
1 kilometer.
any size. I mean, we don't know actually the
Exactly.
size of the creatures that were living before us. We see
Yeah.
a bunch of evidence that the people
Mm-hmm.
were a lot taller not there long before. So probably
Exactly.
before them there were even taller creatures, and they could be growing.
Mm-hmm.
And each and every legend supports that, right? So we have a bunch of
Mm-hmm.
those myths in each and every country. So I mean, uh, why those guys were living here? They probably were mining the place and then left when nothing really significant left for them. So I mean, not very large amounts of stuff left for us, and we still mine the remains of those, reservoir.
Exactly. But my last video is exactly about quarries and mining equipment and sand desert, how they came up from, how it appeared. And I have a theory that it's also a result of mining.
Yeah, I mean,
Huge quarries, uranium quarries.
yeah, uranium mining, of course. It was underground also, because you have to drill something, you have to pour some leaching solution to
Yeah,
ignite the reaction underneath, and then you suck it out from the other drilling hole. So
it's
it's like,
one of the options. Yeah, or huge
yeah,
round excavator, wheel excavator, and because we can see quarries with layers, 100 meters each layer.
yeah, it's
In
called
places like in Grand
hydraulic mining.
Canyon, it looks like a really huge excavate. It looks like a quarry after excavation. It doesn't
Yeah,
look like something natural. So I have
yeah.
a theory about it, and you can watch it. What I think about it in my last video, recent video.
Yeah, at least this is what we agree on, because
Yeah.
mining was actually easy to prove each and every time I tried to speak about the causes. Yeah, war was
It's
one of the
obvious.
possible, but
Yeah.
the more obvious is those holes in the ground. You can see them everywhere. So it's like, if you see the holes in the ground, what else you have to research?
But you
You
know
have
what is also very interesting, that the only two kind of places on our Earth are not covered with clay, with this strange
hmm
no, strange soil, clay. It's not natural because it's a black soil over it and black soil under it. It's strange.
yeah,
What is the explanation? And sand desert not covered with this clay, and these quarries I discussed. those quarries, uranium quarries, they are also not covered with clay. So I think they appeared after mud flood. So it was really 50 years ago.
I
It's
mean,
the only explanation I had.
there's quite one misunderstanding in this topic. When I started to talk about mudflood, people started to talk about as a global event. I
It
mean,
is.
and they were trying to debunk it. It's not global. It's partially global. I mean, it's worldwide. It's spread,
Yeah.
but it's not everywhere. It's not everywhere you go. I
It's
mean,
everywhere. I've been in Nepal in May. I've been in India and Bangladesh the whole year around. I live here in Russia. I see it everywhere. I traveled in Europe and it's everywhere.
you can find it in some mountains. You cannot find it in some parts of Britain. I
It's
mean,
in Nepal everywhere. It's a
somewhere. I mean, Nepal is not very large amount of surface, right? I mean,
Caucasian,
so it's Russia,
Caucasus,
also
Russia.
not the whole world. So I mean, it could be, said like this: it's everywhere in those places where we see it marked as Grand Tartaria, right? So it's everywhere, mostly
Mm.
everywhere. But if you go to Britain, it's not everywhere. If you go to Europe, it's not everywhere. If you
In
go to
Britain, it's everywhere, absolutely, because in Ireland, it's also
people send me pictures from Scotland, and you don't see any mud there.
because
Okay.
there are some buildings right after the same style. I've researched this topic also. Some people who are against the mud flood theory, they send some so-called proofs, but that's fake proofs. We can discuss it. I also received many of them, but all of them are faked or some cheating because they say it was washed after, I know, because some layers, some streets were digged down or just moved and so on. That's bullshit. Like in
No,
Chicago, they try to explain and make some fake explanation.
I'd like it to be that easy that it was everywhere, but
But
I
Buckingham
don't see
Palace, it's also mud flooded. First floors, actually
it.
first, but we see windows under the ground.
Yeah, at the same time, they sent me a picture of Cambridge Street of the beginning of 1800s, like 1806 or something, and it's the same level as we see today. So, I mean,
Exactly.
so I
Can you
cannot.
trust the dates of photos and reality of photos?
If it's printed in a book that is dated that period,
Uh,
I could trust it. And if that
okay.
book is, named the original, why not? But if it's not
Okay.
a photograph,
London is 50 kilometers, 30 miles from. No, okay, not far from London. Whatever. It doesn't matter how many kilometers. How far is it? But London has huge amount, bunch of proofs of mud flood. Really.
London was a star fort, so that's why it has it. So I mean, I
You
stick
know.
to the period that each and every town that has star forts, and star forts are those bases of
All
those mines.
cities, sorry for interrupting, all cities were on star forts and small star forts were around. They were surrounded by small star forts, really, and each city was inside huge star fort. Each of them, every old city I explored has the traces of star forts. All of them, 100%. I searched, all Russian cities and so on. I've made 4 videos about star forts. You can watch them. I have explanation about the waves, what they were for, and how they worked. It's about energy. It was global energy grid of Earth. And star forts were kind of shelters. They were protecting people
From what?
inside from any attack. They are making power shields. I have an explanation. It sounds crazy, I know, Philip. Sorry, but that's the only explanation I have. How I explain how waves go inside in how energy goes and why this fractal geometry is part of this star shape, star fort shapes. I explain how it works.
Okay. So the miners also explained that star forts are really good for them to mine the area for gas mining, for drilling and stuff like this. So haven't you heard about it?
Yeah, I heard the gas theory, but There is no gas, no pipes, officially high pressure balloons and so on. There are no cylinders for it. I cannot accept this theory because I don't see any traces of it. Definitely, we had some gas lighting 100 years ago, but not so massive production because we can see the same lamps everywhere. I have also 2 videos about street lamps.
And they were gas lamps in each and every European city. Have you heard about it?
I heard about Paris and London, but it's nonsense because there are no gas supply at that time. Actually, no enough gas capacity and no pipes, no clean system, no technologies according official theory because we need some electricity for it and so on. And the first power generated plant was 1906 officially, but we see street lamps in 1815, 1830s, and so on, in very early pictures. And they're all the same type, all over the world, in Australia, South Africa, and so on. I don't believe in gas theory. It's too risky, too dangerous, and it's not applicable. Not reliable, even now. How can you turn on gas on the street, If it's off, gas starts to leak, it explodes, it's not realistic. Gas not clean enough for it supplying. Even today, even natural gas, but wood burning gas, it's also. Come on, I don't buy it. I don't believe.
So you can reject the evidence that you see, right?
I have a lot of proofs of trams going without wires, lamps on streets working without any gas, without any traces of gas pipes, balloons, cylinders, and so on, without valves and so on, because it must be high pressure to supply enough gas.
Do you have any pictures of the trams going without the wires?
Yes, even video. It's all on my channel.
Because I've seen all those videos that Pavel Lobanov shows, and most of them are really fake videos, and he's showing just the so-called non wireless trams, but those trams are powered with the electric engines.
They are, yes, but they know this, how to say this, stick, this connection to the wires. I don't know how to say in English.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I mean, they're powered with electric engines, but the power line is underneath the tram, not above.
The video, the very first video, and definitely the very first photos of trams going without any wires, dated in 1850s or something. Officially, AC, not DC. AC was invented much later, and the very first power generating with 6 megabytes. I talk about it on my video about free energy. Was built in San Francisco 1906. 19, not 1850. So 50 years it was powered by what? We have pneumo trains in London, in Crystal Palace. We have pneumo train even in Kronstadt in Russia, in St. Petersburg. Nobody knows about it, but I have proof. And definitely in New York, how it was powered. We need some energy. It could not be steam engines, coal and so on, charcoal and so on. It's not possible to power it with some fossil fuels.
It's impossible to have it hermetic. It's impossible.
Exactly. We have technologies we have no idea about right now, and a lot of photos, very first photos of not candles, but some lights coming from balls, and nothing around it. No wires, no people sitting, and those balls are lighting.
Because they are gas lamps. That's it. Just easy to explain, because we had all those gas pump lines everywhere, and those tunnels are mostly
Okay, but no gas burning without smoke.
Yes, gas.
And there is no pipe going up, no chimney, nothing. And
blue gas is burning without smoke. It's clean. That's why it's
Blue
used.
gas is natural from 70 atmospheres pressure going from deep 3-5 kilometers underground and so on. We didn't have such technologies to drill it. Really, the only few deposits, gas deposits on Earth can make so clean gas in so huge capacities.
I'm not sure about that because
Yeah,
gas is everywhere. Fracking is in each and every city. You can do fracking even in your
come
city.
on, Paris. Okay, all Paris. We have a lot of pictures. Franco-Prussian War. I made a video about it. Prussia went against France in 1870, 60 something. Okay, and we see a lot of the same type of lamps, street lamps everywhere, absolutely. Can you name any gas deposit around Paris, 200-300 kilometers? No.
It's because I'm not ready to say about it. It's not that we cannot
I
find it.
tried
We
to
find
search. No gas in Berlin, in Moscow, in France, and so on.
well, one person sent me the picture of some town and said, look, looks like atmospheric electricity or something. I've checked on it, and it has 20 miles from it, it has a gas reservoir capacity station right now.
Okay.
And it's fracking everywhere right below that place. So I mean, you have to have a pipeline, and that's it. So if we're talking about
You need to have pipeline. You need to have pipes production line. You need to have valve production line and some motors to do it. You have to power motors for it. Something you have to clean this gas. You have to keep pressure on. Okay, let's go in another direction. I made a video about lights. I mean, lighthouses. They are everywhere. Dozens of thousands on islands for ships, lighthouses, маяки, so-called in Russian. And there is no way for them to be powered by some fossil fuels. Really, there is no way. They all were decommissioned, but all of them have signs of free energy.
I'm not rejecting free energy.
All of them have some mercury metal inside of them, up and on the bottom, and all signs of antennas and these horns to produce vibrations and free energy to direct it, to focus it on one place where actually this ball is, lightning ball, to make light. And I also explain it, but they are everywhere. On Island, no one was on Island. Most of them were automatic. I mean, some people lived on some of them, but most of them were on remote places, very far away. They were built with granite. How they could cut granite, deliver dozens of tons on remote island, build it there, and supply huge amount of what? Oil or what? Every day. Must be 1-2 ton every day to keep enough light to to make it visible for at least 10-15 miles.
Okay. Never researched the lighthouses. Maybe should take a look at it.
Yeah. Also,
But
research
I
something.
don't see any contradiction in what we're trying to talk about. What I'm trying to say
No
is that
problem. Yes.
people were using this system,
Mm-hmm.
and this system actually is what we observe right now. Is that they have illumination on the streets. Officials explain it as the gas illumination. In some certain cases, they talk about some electricity lamps. In some, but a little bit later, of course, than the gas era. And that's why I try, to connect the dots of what I see as the gas pipelines in Russia, Samaria district, in Donetsk region, as those defensive lines with those compensation curves, and the theory of mining that plenty of people promotes, including you, and to the mud volcanoes, which could be actually the result of the previous mining, because we drill the hole, we leave it without any care for 100 years, for 200 years, and it totally becomes some spill place or some eruption place.
But please note, sorry for interrupting. We had different climate. We didn't need to heat. Yeah, we need lighting definitely, but we had a much warmer climate.
I'm not saying that we hated the
Yeah,
place. They could be illuminating the areas
yeah.
because we don't see any of the dark smoke in signs on those churches. So this is the only
Exactly.
explanation could
Yeah.
be electricity or gas lamps because the gas also
Thank
doesn't.
you for mentioning. Yeah, we have a lot of lights coming from so-called churches.
Uh,
Those churches have no crosses on top. They have different devices. I have only one term and one word for device. It's kind of antenna. They different shape and so on. No cross. Most of them did. I don't see any cross on top of it. And a lot of light coming from churches, but there is no way to connect pipes on top of church. It's not realistic.
who said about the
How
pipe?
to start it, how to ignite the light and how
What
turn
light?
and so on. Come on, it's not realistic.
I mean, we're not talking about something that ignites on the top.
Mhm.
We're
But we
talking
can
about
see it on
inside.
photos.
No, we're talking about the inside, man. So you have a gas generator
No,
empowered with
we
the
have
gas.
photos of lights coming from bottom of from top of churches. How make lights? How make gas be burned on top of church?
No, no, you don't understand. Gas
Transmitted.
gas generator was first invented in the 1810s. We had already a gas turbine that could be producing electrical charge.
What
Okay?
charge? DC
Electrical.
or AC?
What
Only
they use.
Tesla produced AC, but you cannot move DC more than 10 meters or something because you lose 80% of power.
No, I'm just trying to connect the dots. The turbine was invented in 1790s, right? Turbine. The word
According to
turbine.
official theory, yes, I wouldn't believe.
So they had turbines
Yeah,
empowered with gas by 1810s.
it cannot be turbines. It could be dynamo, so-called.
No, they called it turbine. It was official terminology. And that turbine exactly looks like the head of the guy in India. And it looks like a turbine that we have right now in the jet engines in the airplanes. It's the same type of technology that we use today. So it's like the
But
beginning of 19th century.
yeah, today we have metallurgy. We have splav alloys, so-called, and so on. We can produce it. We have in industry for it. But in 1810, right?
Yeah,
Was not
1790s and
it
1810s.
was not possible to produce because no powder to be pressed and make metal turbine.
Yeah, that's what I'm questioning. I'm actually
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
questioning this topic. But if that is what we see and that is what is written in officials, we have to
Mhm.
read it and research it. And that's why I try to connect the dots. If they had the gas turbines back then, so they
Mhm.
could be possibly using it to empower the houses, to empower the theaters without any of this smoke thing.
Yeah, another question. Officially, lamps were invented not by Edison. Actually, it was a Russian guy, uh,
Invented or reinvented?
Dugin or
No.
something. Then reinvented. Then Tesla added something. Okay, let's say Wolfram. This coil Wolfram inside the lamp was offered by Edison. Okay, what date? 1870 something. But how they were producing light before 1817, but mass production was 1890 or something.
Yeah, and we see electric, some
Electric
illumination
light, kind of electric. In at least 1850s, illumination during the coronation of Russian king.
yeah, and that easily fits into the generators that they could be possibly having in Kremlin or somewhere and empower all those
No
lines around.
lamp were invented to make lights, and no AC because you cannot just put a wire. Actually, you need a wire also. Some industry to produce wires and so on. There were no industry officially for isolation and for so on. And there is no way to you can send a bunch of energy throughout at least 100 meters, because you lose 80-90%. If it's DC, you cannot put wires. You lose power. It's one feature of DC. Ask any engineer.
Oh, I see where you missed my point.
Loss
I
is
mean,
a huge.
the generator itself is not a device that is, pretending to be something that is
Explanation. Yeah.
no. The generator itself is a technology. It generates it. Air, atmospheric electricity, is another technology. It also can be, capturing something.
Exactly. Yeah.
But the generator itself could be, producing the energy actually, but not capturing the energy. So what we see
Exactly.
on spires are the capturing devices.
Yes.
Generators and or some, amplifiers that could be used as generators also, because what we see right now as the jet fuel hoax. Have you heard about it? When people try to question the jet fuel technology that we have on the planes, that it cannot contain as much fuel as they're supposed to be in the wind, and all
Exactly.
the stuff.
Yeah.
So, but we see something go into the plane and supplying it with some fuel. So they could possibly, and we see the smell of fuel when before the takeoff. So I'm not saying that there's no fuel in the jet plane, but I'm
There
saying
is
that
a fuel, but they're using some vibration technology to cut the
they could be using a fuel to
start.
to ignite the process,
Yeah.
not as much in such much vast amounts that they tell us, right? We never measured amount of fuel that they pump in the plane, so nobody knows it actually. So but this is some type of conspiracy right now about it. So
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say is you have a capturing device that
Mm-hmm.
could be using some wireless technology that we don't have anymore, like the Tesla used. And we have, some type of generators that could be capturing this, energy to ignite some empowering process and amplifying it to the power lines, actually. And we don't know how those power lines were connected to the generator. Maybe it's also wireless technology.
Exactly. I'm trying to say that there is no power lines, no way you can uh, send any reasonable amount of energy through the modern power lines, because it's not AC. You lose energy when you send DC using wires.
Yeah, and of course, and those inventors, the so-called inventors that invented electricity, invented lamps, and invented all this stuff, are really could be questioned if we look at the reverse of 17th century of Germany, where we see people with the lightning swords and all those, fireworks,
Sparks,
stuff like
yes, and so
this,
on.
lightnings, stuff like this. So people were messing with lightnings for a long time, and they could possibly use this lightning technology also to capture
Yeah.
electricity, because right now we don't really research the lightning itself as an official science. So many researchers on YouTube, but none of it actually explain what lightning is and how does it strike and how does can be measured. We see some tornado capture people that trying to capture tornadoes also. Very very unexplained topic actually. We see some floodings that occasionally go in the United States, huge floodings in Russia each and every year, and no scientist can explain this. There's a whole bunch of topic about weather warfare itself, about
Yeah.
chemtrails, and about those conspiracies that could possibly be, available back in the days also, and to destroy the cities and to destroy the towns, and to see it all in the complex of some profit. I mean, I'm the guy who follows the money actually, because if you don't see any profit in something, I mean, I don't actually feel that this is evidence of something. So that's why I'm, sticking to mining as a commercial project, as could be, the war of between the corporations itself, like what we
But
have right now. We have it in our days.
okay.
So Russia is in a war with Qatar, USA, and many other countries that also producing gas and oil, and we have this conflict only because of this fuel that we can cheaply extract from the ground and sell it 300,000 percent with profit. So this is
Maybe, but it's all about the money, plus minus. But you know that some people, Federal Reserve System, they just print money, and they have printed 300 times more money than cost of everything on Earth.
Yeah, but that's why they
You,
have to
me,
control the
your
energy.
liver, and so on. You understand your body and price and gold and so on. So it's money can be just printed. Really, it's just an instrument. It's a tool or something. And haven't did you think about different society that didn't have money as their instrument, as a tool of enslavement and so on? Maybe we have a different society, and money was not the point. It's not the case because we see huge everything, megaliths and so on. It cannot be explained by income or searching for of income and so on. We have,
Why do you say like this?
it's not all about money because actually there is no proof of any laws on everything, anything before mud flood, earlier than 200. Everything is faked, absolutely everything. So there must be explanation of it because the official history is complete fake. Actually, I don't buy it. I don't believe it. It's uneducated people could buy something like a cathedral in France, which was burned actually, like a clock, city clock, like in Praga, in Czechoslovakia, and so on. We need calculations, we need industry for it, we need engineers, and so on. I do not buy official history that city clock was built 800 years when we had a lot of diseases in Europe, uneducated people, and so on, because we need a huge calculations for it to make this device, even to build a building of it.
So the industry itself needs funding and financial income, and it needs main resource.
Resources, but not money, because try to change mentality. It's not about money. For example, Soviet Union was a proof that people could live by status without money. Money was just, not so important. And people were fed, had jobs.
So what was the most important?
Maybe we had something like this. People just lived like in today in Switzerland. People get paid just for living. And if you want to work, you can get a job and go. But if you don't need it, you can get your 2,000 or 3,000 euros and just leave. And 5% of people just work for fun as hobby. We have this in some places on Earth today. So I think something like this was before, because we have no idea what kind of society, what kind of laws, what kind of relationships were before mud flood.
Okay, I don't get your point about the money actually, because what you're trying to say is that they had the technologies, and if they had the technologies, their technology need to be supported by some production of bricks, stones, or whatever, and
Glass and so on, but
yeah.
it's
So they needed resources, and if they needed resources, they needed
what is money? Only paper.
Mining. They need the mining, man, to get the resources, and
Mm.
mining could be done only if you have somebody who is funding the process before the mining starts. So I mean, if you don't have any economy, you don't need mining, and if you don't have mining, you don't have any economy. This is like, who is first, the chicken or the egg?
Exactly. So just a tool, one of the tool. If you need a house, you need bricks, and you say you need money. I'm saying you need bricks to, but you are saying you need money to buy bricks.
No, not
Chicken and egg,
money.
exactly.
Mining.
Mining. Okay,
Mining
my idea. Yeah, I
mining and
understand. I
money
understand.
is a little bit different, because money is needed to start the mining, because
And
you need to pay somebody to
eh,
do some dirty
okay,
work for you, right? For
I
do
got it.
quarrying or whatever. You have to feed those people, even if it's not money, if it's gold or something,
Yeah,
some food. You have to,
some values. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
some
But
values. And money is just the first value that comes to mind, because we see all those coins from different epochs, and you can still find it. So they had an exchange. They definitely use more gold and silver
yes,
before.
something
So these are resources they
definitely.
need to mine to get the pressure of that metal. So the pressure of the metal was formed by the amount of offer of that metal, actually, because if you don't have.
I'm not sure there was some offer because I have proofs of so-called arches, Arch de Triomphe, or something like that, all over the world. and I think it's teleport devices. And we know nothing. Just coming back to mining. Okay, in St. Petersburg we have St. Paul's Cathedral, which has 3 layers of dome, huge dome, and the middle one was made of mercury and gold. It's not to protect the rain. I will make a video about it, and it's all covered by copper, even outside. Granite and copper outside. It's not wasting resources. It has some purposes.
And you said
Logical purpose.
You said the rtуть was there. How do you call it?
Mercury.
Mercury.
Mercury metal with alloy, amalgama.
Where did they get so many mercury then?
And so many gold and so many silver. Notre Dame, the roof of Notre Dame de Paris was made of lead. Свинец, lead. 200 tons. And any cathedral in all over the world, in Siberia, so-called Gothic cathedral, originally had no cross on top, absolutely, no mentioning about Christ, Jesus Christ, and it's all using the same technology, the same resonator, the same rose windows. Actually, it looks like a car. Any car all over the world looks the same because it has some technological reasons and purpose. It has 4 wheels. It's done with using some technologies, there's engine, motor inside, and so on. The same cathedrals, I think it's technological device. It's all the same. They all have roofs made of lead. Why? I know only 2 places, 2 lead deposits in England and in Italy, where how they were transporting 100 tons of lead to South America, to Siberia, and so on. Must be another explanation.
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. They had the tunnels between the
continents.
Yeah, and they use those tunnels because
but how they were making
miners
don't remember about it.
Miners drill the tunnels. It's easy, just like we
had. It's easy. Just make a 20 meters tall wheel.
Yeah.
How you produce it? Why we don't remember it?
Because those people definitely left the place, man. This is how we explain it.
What was the reason? And why they destroyed everything? Old.
It's what you do to cover up the story, man. If you steal and rob the place, you cover up the story. Cover up your crime.
What for? What crime? I live in my house. I decided to leave house. Why should I destroy my house first of all? Why should I leave?
Because it's not your house the first time, right? It's not your resource. Why? You integrated yourself into some society just to rob it and to rob it with their own hands. Just to get the resources.
Okay, I live in my house. Okay, not mine. Okay, I live in house. Why I decide to leave it?
Because it's not your house.
Okay, I'm afraid of somebody. The owner will come.
The owners are living around.
Owner.
The owners are living around you. You steal the place. You steal the.
Why owner? Okay, we are owner. Why we don't remember it?
Why do criminals do all this stuff?
Okay, if we are owners, why we don't remember that somebody came, robbed us, and left?
You ask the criminals why we don't remember. Because they use the technology to dumb down the people. That's it.
Exactly. There is somebody is making dumps, making us fools.
Yeah, somebody's making the general paradigm. We call it original mainstream. Somebody's creating the alternative paradigm, and we call it alternative. Some making radical paradigm. We call it radicals. Or some making even some attacks, and we call them terrorists. And people express their feelings towards something is wrong. Everybody knows something is wrong. Everybody's criticizing their governments, their councils, their mayors, and stuff like this. Everybody's not happy, but somehow the world is running this way because we are being controlled.
And when it started, let's find out the key point.
If we stick to this 19th century, it's easily explained.
Exactly. At least we get to the same position, you and me. It's all started in 19th century. Exactly.
Not even. I mean,
Crazy.
the takeover must be some some frequency process when you have like the Renaissance era, and then you go back to
Like
some
sinusoid, yeah.
yeah, it's like
Dark Ages and blah blah blah.
and then you stick to the liberal stuff. You totally sink into this chaos, and after the chaos they can do whatever. They rob all this stuff and leave us with nothing, and then it starts all over again.
Sure.
This is how they do it. They leave
They make
us.
us fold. They make a mess. Yeah, they divide and conquer.
Yeah, and this is why we see the decrease of the height, because it's a lot easier to maintain the smaller people. Each and every time they make us smaller, weaker, and more dependent.
I think we had this. It's it's genetic material. We have pictures of tall people and us.
Yeah, it's only 19th
and we
century.
lived together. Yes, in 19 exactly.
Yeah, just imagine how tall they were in the 18th century, 100 years before that.
I'm not sure because okay, but it's
we see so many architectural evidence that they were definitely a lot taller.
Doors and trees and so.
And
I have a nice video. Even in Bangladesh, we have a temple, so-called Temple of Giants, because it's salience. The heights of floor is about 8 meters.
Yep.
Meters.
So
visited them. 2 temples were placed together. No, they close. But one for normal people, salience 4 meters. I mean, for us, it's a little bit too much, but it's okay. And also fence, also 1 meter and so on. But fence on the second, also 2.1 meters. I would hardly reach the top. Fence on the roof. So I made video about it and I have explanation. And strange also, this T-shaped metal construction, balka, how to say in Russian. And one was officially constructed 1.6 thousand, 400 years ago, and one was the second. This Putia temple was constructed in 1895 or something officially, but it's bullshit. And they all have this T-shape material, metal constructions inside on salience. Absolutely the same. I ask why this 400 years ago and this 100 years ago, they have this absolutely the same technology, materials, style, and so on. Why they all have the same materials and the same, no corrosion on it? Metal construction 400 years ago, who made them? It's definitely not local smith made it. How? Using what hammer? What chisel? They have perfect status of girls, women, European style, they look like Europeans. They don't look like Bangladesh local Bengali people. Yeah, I asked some question why it's mud flooded, it's buried first floor. I asked who made this T-shape? No answers. I had many questions. Why they all melted? They have melted roofs. I have proofs about it. I made a chemical analysis of it and so on. I have video about it. Also, a lot of questions and no answers. Absolutely. So we know nothing. We can only assume, make a guess what was before, like you said. But I'm not sure they're making us smaller. I think 2 types of people were living for a long time here because a lot of proofs, a lot of pictures of people at the same time of 2 types.
Yeah, but those people were a lot smaller than we are. The second type of people. I've been making the videos on those shorties. So yeah, we have some coexistence of shorties and giants at the same time on some pictures.
Yeah, shorties, it's us. I think it's us.
But no, we compare our average height people on the same places, comparing them with the pictures of that age where we have shorties, and we see shorties twice less height as us. But the giants are twice as high as us.
As we, yes.
We have like giants and the shorties, which are like twice less than we are right now. So we have those shorties in circuses right now.
I never heard about shorties.
Shorties, коротышки обычные.
I know what is shorties, but
We had shorties back then too. So
I thought we are shorties.
no, we are not shorties. We're taller than the shorties. That's what I'm trying to say.
Strange.
We
Yeah.
compare the same pictures and we see that we are taller right now than we were before. Though if we compare
Meaning-
our shorties, but we are less height when the giant people that stand
Yes.
alone. So, and this is where this misunderstanding come out, because somebody plugged this idea that we those shorties. No, we are not.
We are.
We are taller than they are, and we taller. We have those beds of those shorties. They're living in those scarves and little wardrobes or whatever, with those small beds. They're still left in England and some museums in Netherlands. You can go and visit those. There's no way you can sleep in this bed. There's no way. So these are the shorties, and those shorties right now are presented in circuses and the so-called Lilliputs. Okay,
But
and
it's genetic materials. I mean, they look like fat. It's not normal.
they can be fat and they can be, who knows what type of activity.
Yeah, I agree. Tall people, they okay. Sometimes they appear.
We see the lack of fat
5
people.
meters.
That's what I really agree with it. We see the lack of fat people.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows what type of diet they had before, or had that type of diet that we have right now? Because our diet is not very perfect, and we see a large amount of people getting fat for no reason, just because of so-called genetics. But I kind of lean to the hypothesis that it's all because of nutrition that we, obtain from the products that they sell to us, and we don't know what we actually eating and what we drinking, and we see a bunch of evidence of these researches people do on that. And I'm not saying go to the vegetarian or be complete vegetarian. I've been a vegetarian for 3 years, and I see some improvements in my health, and I see some bad stuff also.
Me too. I refuse meat actually, and I feel fine. And I've visited St. Petersburg and some other places. All I see on bas-reliefs, on statues everywhere, only fruits. And strange fruits, actually. I don't see this type of fruits in my present life. Different type of fruits and a lot of different pineapples, kind of pineapples, no bananas, but some kind of palmas and so on everything.
Yeah, just before we started this talk today, in the pause that we have between our talks, I made a little video about the dust storms. And what do you take on dust storms? Is it more what I tend to think about? Is it a post effect of a mud flood, because the land could be dried out and small low fraction particles could be
exactly.
into the dust storms, or is it the cause of the mud flood, as the people try to say?
It cannot be the cause of mud flood, because it's a cause of missing trees and aging vegetation on surface. I think we had a lot of clay on top or over it, and no vegetation, no even grass.
Yeah, and why would we have no vegetation? Why we don't have any vegetation?
It was burned after bombardment. The only explanation I have.
Or washed away with the mud.
All around the world, actually, and we have a clay on it. And when it was dried, after water went out, it was dried, and then we have this dust everywhere.
Yeah,
it's now we have much less this dust hurricanes than we had before. In 1950s in Russia, before this huge Stalin's campaign of planting trees everywhere, because it was huge movement, actually millions of trees were planted and so on. We had many situations, many hurricanes, these dust hurricanes, especially in south part of Russia, in the USSR and so on, Kazakhstan and so on. But now we don't have this protected shield. We don't need it. But earlier we had this protective, how to say, stavni, I don't know how to say, fence on windows to protect against dust, sands, and so on, hitting the windows. So every old house in Russia has these protection devices, kind of shields.
Yeah.
Protect windows, glasses, and so on. Yes. Close it, like doors, doors, but for windows.
Yeah.
Philip knows what I'm talking about, but maybe some foreigners don't.
This just, the protection as you have in the shops from the thefts. When you go, you lock the shop down and you roll down.
Yes, something like that. Yes.
Same thing for the windows they had in those peasant villages in Russia, and
but not for protection, but it's against sand.
Yeah, it's against dust and wind and
Yes.
could be easily explained with that. So that was a routine thing for for those times because they had
Normal,
lack of
obligatory. Yes.
for hundreds of years. There were no forests, as we can see on the Proskudin-Gorsky series of pictures of Russia. We have lack of trees there, and this is the beginning of 20th century. So that
Yeah,
could be
young trees.
explained by huge fires or enormous waves of mud flood could be also destroying forests because we still excavate huge stumps of trees which are not petrified
Rest.
mud in different parts of the world, and we have a bunch of pictures of that. So that could be explained that the mud was covered in the forest and the tops of the trees were just dying. Who knows? Because that could easily
Under it.
disbalance the soil because mud also
But not
contains.
not everywhere, but in most of cases we see burned trees, burned wood under the glue in the
Yeah, and burned also, but no, I mean
and
it's
a
different
lot of
in every place. Like you go in the Moscow district, you see just clay and young trees, like young pine trees, right?
over it,
Over
but not
over it,
under it.
and you
Yeah,
see a huge layer of clay under it, so under the trees, and then you have like a darker
but you
soil.
see,
Yeah,
mud flood cannot burn uh, these bricks. I can see a lot of burned bricks burned from above, from top
where?
Russia in the Tula region. You
Never, never
have,
been there.
I will send you a video. A lot of this глазурь на кирпичах.
It's called
So-called
vitrification. You call it vitrification. It's like a
not
type of.
vitrification. I have seen melted bricks and melted stones and melted columns in Turkey. I have seen melted bricks in Putia temple in Bangladesh. I have seen traces of. I think it's nuclear. It's kind of temperature was applied. Very high temperature was applied for a second or less.
It's called EMP
Home
right now. It's called.
electromagnetic. It's not electromagnetic. It's heating. Electromagnetic. It's a different kind of wave.
Yeah, right now where you have in California, people see a bunch of pictures from some
Fire. Yeah.
that plug
Paradise.
waves like rail guns and stuff like
Yeah.
this,
Something like that.
whatever
Yes.
you call it, and they call it EMPs or something like this. But I'm not actually sure about.
Yes. The race. It was nuclear. It was. When I say nuclear, I mean their size of explosions. I mean
It's like more
the
a
power of preparation.
It's more like a
Yeah,
ray.
it was ray, but when I say nuclear, I mean their power of explosion. It was
What they tell us
people
about
understand.
nuclear is
Mm-hmm.
comparable to what we see, but actually,
Mm-hmm.
nuclear has a bunch of more evidence, like gamma rays, alpha rays, and some radiation. We also observe it, and you know what I found recently that the
Mm-hmm.
mud itself is a great observant of this nuclear radiation. And
Yes.
why not, if that would be used by those who knew how to ignite those mud volcanoes just to clean and absorb the cities from the previous radiation that came up? If they were using some EMP weapons or whatever you call it,
Mm-hmm.
destroy those cities or those star fortresses or whatever you've seen in Tula.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard about this Tula. Galina Konashova made a video on, but I need to watch it just not only to hear it, but it's better to
Mm-hmm.
watch than to hear a thousand
I'll
words.
make a video about it. I personally came to another place and found this.
Yeah, but
Near the place where we have a cemetery, just right near the Tula Kremlin, not Moscow has a Kremlin, but Tula also. And we found a bunch of more than 50 people died in one place without any preparation. Just it was small mountain of people.
yeah, and also see a bunch of carpet burning,
5 meters, yeah, under the ground.
carpet bombings in Tver region in northern Siberia near the Arctic shore, where we see a bunch of ancient cities on the Tartarian maps. We don't see any anymore, but we see a bunch of carpet bombing evidence as what the Americans.
Exactly. So it
Yeah,
was kind of war, but who was the intruder? That's the question.
but was it actually nuclear? Is the big question, and just don't stick to.
I'm saying it doesn't matter what material was used. Maybe rays, maybe something else, waves. I don't care because when I say it's nuclear, it means power. It was a bombing with a huge power. That's it.
Yeah,
You
just
bomb
huge.
something with huge power. We have some radiation process. I mean, something was radiating because even if you burn something in very high temperature, there are some emitting radiation and so on.
Of
Radiation
course.
must be whatever you explode. It's not
Yeah.
necessary to be uranium or cesium, whatever.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
called nuclear because there was huge explosion. It's easier for people to understand what we talk about.
Yeah, but when I started to say about some type of nuclear terminology, I was using it like 2 years ago, and some people came to my channel, started to troll me about this because they showed me a bunch of evidence that nuclear shit doesn't exist at all. And I really, I'm something in the middle. I'm trying to say that something comparable to what they
Yeah,
call
comparable to the power of nuclear or
as what they say.
thermonuclear. Yes.
And I've actually been interviewing this guy from Semipalatinsk, and he
Mhm.
was talking about underground explosions. Like he made like about 300 of them, and so he was like a guy who was actually measuring all those
Mhm.
indications of different explosions, and he was saying like even the hills were blowing up into the sky and they were shaking ground and all this stuff
Mhm.
comparable to nuclear, but he never actually said anything about the radiation. I said, did anyone feel any radiation in those craters or in those places where those underground explosions were? Any soldier died from radiation? Anybody died? No, nobody. They were even fishing from those places and they were eating
Yeah.
those fish. So something is definitely a lie in this nuclear stuff. So I mean, I'm not comparing totally refusing that it
A lot
exists,
of questions. Yes, because
but so many questions,
yeah,
so many questions.
I've spent 1 year on construction of nuclear power plant in Rupur in Bangladesh. Now I finally came back, but the question is, I talk to people and they were building, they know what they talk about. They're talking about reactors, they're talking about evaporation of water and so on. So there is something, there is a technology, but we know nothing about this technology, and
Yeah, could it be a military technology?
it could be military, but we don't know definitely not much about radiation because I also visited place and another guy visited place where officially only more than 1,000 explosions happened. And there is no radiation, a little bit slightly higher level of radiation, slightly higher than normal. I mean, how it's possible after 30 years after the last one?
Yeah, and have you seen
No
the
radiation. People driving there, only one memorial, one plate, stone plate, saying that this is the place
Mhm.
all this explosion happened.
Yeah, have you seen the American documentary about the people that were close to the sea explosions and stuff like this, and they were like feeling all the impacts and the heat wave and the sound wave, and they're still living, right? They
Yes,
were on the surface of the ship,
but
you know.
definitely we know that there are many people who so-called liquidators in Chernobyl. They died. Many people died.
But
So
from what? From exactly
it's,
what?
it's this question. I don't know.
From the drugs that they were given after the case, or maybe from
And
the
maybe some kind of waves we have no idea about.
yeah, some type of
We don't know what happened in Chernobyl. We officially were told that it was a kind of explosion, blast. Actually, not much explosion, meltdown and blast. That's why we don't see normal radiation like when normal nuclear explosions. 95% of radiation and everything of material go into X-rays and actually to radiation and then disappear because it's just a kind of heat. It's not something uranium, something you can touch, something you can radiate, emit waves, and so on. But in Chernobyl, officially, it was meltdown, so all material will just spread over some territory. That's why it's dangerous. That's why this полураспад, how to say, this period of activity, half activity, I don't know how to say, it's long time, more than 30 years. That's why it was so dangerous. But I'm not sure we can trust this information. We don't know. We don't know shit what's happened now. CNN or what somebody made a movie serial
HBO.
is about it. Yes, HBO. Yes, but it's also complete fake because there was definitely was no Afro American on Chernobyl, but we can see a lot of Afro Americans working on plant and so on.
Yeah, a
It's
bunch
a
of
lot
crap.
of fakes.
People like spreading stuff about those dust storms, talking about it's everywhere where Red Army was controlling the area. So they saying like Soviets actually ruined all those.
Including USA,
Yeah, and then
Australia.
including
Come on,
everywhere. This is
come
like
on.
people, totally misleading people sometimes. I mean,
Mhm.
that's why I'm the one who said, let's talk. If we have some different disagrees, like maybe tell each other what we know about. Maybe we find out.
We are not defending the Red Army or because we are kind of Russian or something.
No,
We're
no
just
way.
trying to dig the roots, find the source, find the real reason. We are researchers. We are open for conversation. I'm also. Let's talk about it. If you have any proof that the Red Army made all the sandstones all over the world, even 150 years ago, show it. No problem.
He doesn't have any, so
Okay.
they just claiming.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
that's what I'm trying to fight. The people just trying to claim something without, supporting with some, actual evidence. I mean, I'm trying to use the comparison method as I compare something that we see on the pictures of 19th century, and I try to compare it with what we see right
Yeah, a
now.
level of mud flood,
Yeah.
yes.
And
Clear.
this it's not about the level of the windows only. It's about everything. I mean, if you,
Everything.
yeah, so it's the comparison method I'm trying to use. It's why if you don't have it in like past 100 years, how can you say it was 200 years before? But if you have it every
Exactly.
day, you probably think about it as the possible cause as it was before.
Mhm.
That's what I'm trying to stick.
Yeah, we have photos of giants also in 19th century. We have photos of a lot of military photos, especially in independence, foreign USA. I have a lot of questions for for those photos because we see giants there. We see a lot of skyscrapers. I mean, buildings with 20, 30 floors, definitely no way to leave them there without electricity and without water supply system, sewage, and so on. So I have a question: how they were built and how they were destroyed? Because sometimes we see destruction from above. We see no windows, no roofs, and so on. We have only some kind of gunpowder. Officially, gunpowder was the only explosion out of that period, but we see devices cannot be produced at that time. We see a lot of strange explosions, like after nuclear explosions of huge normal explosive like C4, but huge amount of it. There is no way of using any C4 150 years ago, and so on. I have a lot of questions, and I'm open for discussion. I'm not saying
Yeah, when you say no
that's
way,
right.
I mean you probably mean
According to
no.
official
According to official, yeah. No
official
way according to
history,
official.
official narrative is saying complete bullshit.
Yeah, we hear people just to question the official narrative. That's it. And
Yeah,
it's not like arguing and totally discrediting each and everybody who's researching.
we
Like,
need the truth.
yeah,
That's
people
truth
just
seekers.
expressing their opinion, and that's why I suppose that those are trying to debunk the topic from the officials, and we have some
Mhm.
official Russian historian teams that trying to debunk different myths. What they doing is
Exactly.
they picking and choosing those weak points that we have, without combining it with
The whole
with
picture,
the
yeah.
evidence. Without the evidence, they just picking up the pieces, or
Yeah,
picking up
I
the
know.
houses or something like. One guy from Australia picked the house that nobody was proven is a mud flood and started to disprove the mud flood.
I know this guy. Two guys were sending the same pictures to all researchers of real history researchers, as I say, mud flood followers, and they was sending the same two stupid pictures, saying that there was no mud flood. I'm asking stupid questions. Why all the rest pictures, thousands of them,
Yeah, yeah.
in mud flood? How can you explain? No answer.
No, I'm just saying, just go come to
Yeah,
Moscow and we just walk around and you try to
exactly.
explain me how it happened, and that's it. I don't
Any
want to. I want to
place.
talk about any late 19th century building that you're trying to debunk that was not a mud flood because it had the basement floor. But I'm trying to
Mhm.
say, how do you know it was really built that way? And he
At
showed me
that
the
time,
picture
yes.
when it was built on the second floor, people standing on the second floor and doing the masonry. I say, what about the first two floors? Who built them? And he's like, he doesn't have any explanation for that because they don't have any pictures, and so he's just trusting the official story.
Foundation
Yeah,
made of granite in the middle. Sometimes I found a bridge, normal metal bridge in Bangladesh. Officially, it was built in 1912, but there is no photo of construction of this building. Only one photo, something very low quality and so on, poor quality. But how one this pile between two piles there is a metal construction. It's solid. I mean, you should assemble it and then put it on these piles. And it's in the middle of huge river, Ganga River. It's at least 2,000 tons. How it was built? These piles, they made of granite. How they cut granite and put it in the middle of river. It's huge river. There is no way it could be built according to official narrative at that time. And then these railways built by British, I mean, 1,000 miles all over India. At that time, India was Bangladesh, Pakistan, and some other countries, Nepal, and so on. It was huge India. But British, I mean, it was, I don't know, maybe 10,000 people, militarists, soldiers. But they claim that they built a bunch of palaces, I mean, European style, build a lot of wells, railway stations, railways, bridges, and so on. And they did it not only in India, they did it in all Asia, South Africa. Come on, who's buying this shit? I'm just
and nobody has any evidence of that. I mean,
exactly. I'm saying there is no corrosion on this bridge in Bangladesh. I tried to take a piece unofficially, but I cannot show it. But I made a sample of it, and I made a sample of this Putia temple and so on. But the result was strange. We have some zinc inside steel, but there is no way. Zinc is evaporated completely at 600 degrees and still only start to be melted 1.4 thousand degrees. I mean, it's like make an alloy of paraffin and steel. Something like that. Water and copper. Whatever. You cannot just mix together. When you start to heat it, one part of alloy will be evaporated like water before the second part will start to melt down. There is no way. Now we have zinc, we plate it over it. We're using electricity to put some zinc over it. You understand? Zinking process. We need a lot of energy for it, electricity. And we cannot put zinc inside. We cannot put zinc only over it. And only in recent time, we have some alloy to put some pressure. And we can put some zinc inside, but it's very hard, very strange, and very complicated process. But how it was done at least 100 years ago.
Yeah, I've heard you also talked about the guns and the bronze guns that we have, cannons.
Cannons everywhere. There is no way that powder was used, because some people tried to shoot the original cannons and they were exploded from the bottom. I mean,
yeah. What is your explanation for all these cannons?
There is a wave device. Like Gauss, modern electromagnetic.
Yeah, that's what I'm sticking to also.
Exactly, wave, sound, frequency devices. I will make a video about it. I have a bunch of video to be.
So could those devices released. Be those EMPs or rail guns?
Yes, Gauss devices, like Gauss gun. It's the same. Yes, electromagnetic. This principle.
This is where we connect the dots, because guys, we see the evidence of melting on some fortresses and brick houses, and we see a bunch of those cannons everywhere, and there's no
the same type. Also the same type, we see a bunch of statues cannot be done by chisels and hammers. Definitely European style. We have European style palaces with everything with this, especially in Star Forts we have a lot of cannons. How they were used, because definitely, and no traces of powder, and no way we can use powder to shoot somebody more than 100 meters, because this cannonball cannot kill anyone if it's more than 100 meters. Definitely not enough power. Kinetic power is very weak.
Have you researched the official explanation of those Star Forts and those anti-cannon protection shape?
Absolutely bullshit. Absolute bullshit, because there is no way you can shoot cannon from inside. You can lose your ears. You will not be able to hear anything if you shoot cannon from inside, from this small window. You will kill everyone inside, not outside. Definitely.
Yeah, and what is the ratio of the cannon inside the
Zero,
ship?
not enough weight, or not enough mobility to put it, and then you spend 10 minutes to load it, and 1 second to shoot. Come on.
I mean, the how many cannons exploded? Could be,
Almost all of them. If you use normal,
I mean, inside the building, inside the ship or whatever.
no way you shoot it, because when you shoot, it pushes back. There is no way you can hold it. If it's wooden ship, it absolutely will destroy everything inside this wooden ship. And there is no way you can aim. There is no aiming device in this.
I mean, only very small cannons can do that. I mean, very large caliber
And
cannon.
they are all made of bronze. We have perfect steel materials. I mean, they were not stupid. They were everyone, but not stupid. And they know that bronze, okay, if it's not exploded after 2 or 3 shots, it's absolutely melted. I mean, exhausted. This cannon cannot be used for shooting anymore, more than 2 times, because bronze is very soft.
Have you seen those footage that people cut the cannons in the middle and see the steel
Sometimes it's
inside?
steel, then it's covered by bronze. Bronze is very good conductive material, and when it's heated, it doesn't enlarge too much.
Yeah, expand. Mm-hmm.
It expands, yes. So there is something we don't know, because if it's made of steel, this pipe for shooting, this rifle, I mean, it's enough. No need to put bronze over it. What for we need it? So there is something we don't know. It's definitely not for shooting, because like any weapon, you don't need to put some gold over it and so on. Yeah, because you use maybe 10 seconds in the battle, in the war, and then you destroy it, and it is destroyed. Absolutely, it's most of weapons are used one time. You shoot and then you dead and so on. So there is no need to treat cannons like they were treated, with these decorations and so on. There are a lot of we don't know about it.
Yeah, and we see lack of the marks of the cannonballs on the walls. Like we don't have any.
Absolutely no, not of them. And most of cannonballs are made of a kind of quartz. They're not metallic. Metallic, no way we can use metallics, because it's better and much easier to use some kind of cylinder for shooting. And we're not stupid. I mean, they understand that the cylinders are much more suitable for shooting, not balls, because balls can be perfect shape. You cannot get perfect shape because it rotates inside it. You cannot get perfect shape to avoid leaking of gas through it, to avoid stacking in a cannon and so on. So there is no way of using metal balls. Only metal cylinders, yes, it's possible, but also with some soft material, soft rings over it, and so like we use our time. They were not stupid. They did incredible things and buildings with calculations. They were good engineers with have a lot of knowledge about materials and metals, of course. They did what we cannot do today, definitely. So there is something we don't know about cannons, that's for sure.
Yeah, and a bunch of alchemists back then were, very famous, and we see a bunch of those tables of periodic elements that were, trying to present before the official periodic table came up in the 19th century, of course, as everything else we have. I mean, very, very interesting line of connecting the dots as we came up today.
They had mechanic computers, not even calculators, computers. I made a video about. They had micrometers. I mean, why you should make micrometer made in officially 1.6 thousand, 400 years ago also. The first micrometer we have. Micrometer means it's 1,000 of 1 millimeters. What you can you imagine what to measure? Even the hair is not
The size. Yeah,
not the size, not big enough, not small enough to measure this side of.
Yeah.
I mean, there is something we don't know about an official narrative cannot explain everything.
Talking about the myths and legends, as we had in Russian fairy tales, where we have a plate and the apple rolling on the plate, as what we see right now on the Apple
Showing
phones.
something, yes,
No,
yes.
I mean on the Apple phones, you see it when you download some picture or something, right? And
Hmm.
you see the video of exact place you want to see, or exact search keyword that you ask
Hmm.
the plate to show you, like show me. Siri,
Something.
show
Yes,
me Celnazor channel, and it's gonna be loading, and you're gonna see the channel on YouTube, right? And the search
yeah.
results, and this is what I'm talking about. And actually, the mirrors could also be not
Kind
just the
of TV,
mirrors; it
yes.
could be the same
Computers.
type of TVs, and it could be all wireless because it's inside the cities, inside the castles. That could be producing this wireless transfer energy via the generation
Definitely,
that they
yes,
had in
yes.
those castles. And they
That's
could be having spires as the TV towers, and the cross could be also the TV antenna. Who
Yeah,
knows?
technologies were much better than we had because, and you understand what you say. I understand what you say, but I think not many people from USA, for example, understand what we are talking about. But there is a true, really, some fairy tales in Russia. In Russia, Russian fairy tales have explanation of strange devices, like in Russian fairy tales, we have this explanation and description of the same device, like in Mahabharata in India, of flying machines, of teleporting devices, and so on. So some people remember somehow and uh, telling information about our past via stories. I don't think it's fairy tales; it's some kind of memories, encrypted, descripted memories about our.
In science, you call it a cargo cult. When you actually use the objects of the previous technology, but sooner or later you have to copy them, and you copy them with some functions
Without
without.
understanding,
Yeah,
yes.
and you just copy it and use it, and you don't understand what this clothes represent, or this hat represent, or this ring
I also have
of
video
clay.
about cargo
Yeah.
code. Yes, you're
So
welcome to watch it.
yeah, so that's what I'm trying to say. And like talking about fairy tales, remember Baba Yaga and the house that she has on the chicken legs, right?
Mm,
It was the first example of smart house when you actually command it just to turn around
mhm.
and sit down so you can enter it, and then it stands up again and nobody can enter the house anymore. So this is like very good depicted in
And
the
fairy tale about Finist when their Alenushka, was searching for this Finist and were flying in some different stars in different flying machines and so on. Also, huge explanation of Vimanas, very good depiction. I mean, very precise explanation of how they were flying from what star to what star and distances between stars and how she was flying, searching
No, I mean, there's no mentioning of stars there.
and
There's mention
different.
of
There
Earths,
is
Earths,
different Earths and different
Earths. But
suns,
the Earth
different
is not as
color of skies, different
no,
color of
no. I
skies.
mean, what I'm trying to say, Earth is not equal a star. Star is some lights in the sky. We don't know actually what about it. But Earth,
Чертог Финиса, созвездия. They
uh,
about this kind
Земли,
of
it's called Земли in the original fairy tale.
land,
But the
Earth.
uh, Zemli is what we have right now. The
But
Midgard Earth, also the Zemli,
yes,
and the Zemli could be right across the whatever.
but
So
she
it's not
was using so-called чертог. I mean, it's a group of stars.
it's the recent transcription or comment of Asgard church that we had in
No, in
Omsk. I know those.
fairy tales.
No mention of Chertok there.
I will show you. I will show you
That fairy tale was
the original
re-edited.
fairy tales. Maybe
It was
a lot
I
of
know what I'm
fakes.
talking about because I was talking to those guys like back in the days in tens
Mm-hmm,
in
mm-hmm,
2010s when I was living in
mm-hmm,
Omsk, and because I
mm-hmm.
know all those guys who brought this idea of
I'm not talking about Asgard. I'm talking about originals fairy tale. Okay,
and these guys
about it.
actually brought this fairy tale to the original public in the new
Mm-hmm.
edition with those
Okay.
Chertol and all this flying Vimana stuff and all this
Mm-hmm.
entourage of
Mm-hmm.
teleports. And it also was brought out with the Trechlyabov guy who made a book, and it was called the Cachet Finista, I think, and something like this. And he also
Mm-hmm.
re-explained all this stuff again from the Finist, Yasny Sokol, and all these fairy tales
Mm-hmm.
that we
Mm-hmm.
have before. This is where it came out. It was back in the days, and
I will try to find
2010.
the reels and print it in
In
Soviet
the,
time,
in
but
the,
it's enough.
in the
For this.
in the Soviet fairy tales, it was called just the Zemli or the Earths. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
39 земель. It's like 27th Earth
Kind of,
from the
yes.
center of Midgard. So
Yeah.
Midgard is in the center, and we have different other Earths around us, not in the skies or something. It's like in the same plane. Okay, that's what they were trying to tell us.
27 different planets. Yeah, she stopped in
Uh,
27
uh,
different places. Also, it's a
no,
good explanation.
they were not never saying the word planet. It was
Yes,
called Earth.
Earth, yes.
So, and
But
the Earth.
explanation, yeah, description of Earth was two suns, different skies, and so on. And only one of them looks absolutely like natural Earth. That's what she said in original.
I'm
People
not
could not
quite
just
sure about that.
imagine it. I will show you a link.
There was a book of fairy tales of 19th century that I had
Mm-hmm,
before back in
mm-hmm,
the days, and 19th century book
mm-hmm,
actual and
mm-hmm,
19th century, and it had fairy tales, and I read about it, Baba Yaga, and I read about there was actually also the explanation of the fairy tales of Kanyok Garbunok, where we had that horse with the guy on a
Pushkin,
horse.
yeah.
Yeah,
I have.
it's not
I
Pushkin, it's Saltykov Shchedrin. There was also
okay.
mentioning of that where the roots came out of
Mm-hmm,
those 5 lakes where you
mm-hmm,
can sink into and
mm-hmm,
get younger. This is all connected to the place that I was living at. That's
mm-hmm,
why I
mm-hmm.
was researching it actually.
Okay.
And that huge whale that had a city on it that could
Mm-hmm.
dive and sink. It's also from the 19th century fairy tales.
Yeah, I have
So
this.
he had all this summarized, and he had these
Mm-hmm,
new fairy tales that we called Kanyok
mm-hmm.
Garbunok right now. So it's like, and also Pushkin had all this stuff. So he also
Yeah,
took all those ancient fairy tales, renamed them, and re-edited them, and
and redesign. Yeah.
yeah. This is how they got famous actually, and
Mm-hmm.
they made money on this fairy tales business. So
Again, you about money. Okay, see,
yeah, it's all about money. It's nothing else.
it's not okay.
So Americans know that you have to follow the money, and this is what I actually learned when I was working in the economic crimes
It's
department.
a false paradigm we all stick into because I don't like it.
I was catching the criminals for
Yes,
corruption,
I
for
know.
economic crimes, and that's why I stick to these obvious evidence that we
We
have.
all
So
brainwashed this
I,
paradigm.
I hope this paradigm won't last very long. Thanks a lot for guys for joining us today, and I hope you had
Thank
have a good time. Ask questions in the comments. Subscribe to Telnazor Global Vision channel. Although he is sticking to the global paradigm about planets and all this stuff, doesn't mean we cannot be friends and cannot talk and meet once in a while, and you just ask questions, you ask the topics, and subscribe to his channel, and we're gonna be meeting one more or maybe even more times, right?
Yeah, thank you, Philipp. It's enough for first time, and thank you very much.
I hope your brain doesn't
Oh,
blow up.
absolutely not, and I need to. I'm looking forward
Yeah,
to
because I'm sticking to the plane theory. I mean, I'm not into the space.
global vision. Means only about vision. I'm not against plane Earth and so forth.
Mm, well, you
We
know
can
what I'm
discuss it
saying. Yeah, yeah.
next talk.
Yeah, planets don't work in my world, so I'm trying to catch on each and every word when they talk about something like this. It's
Yeah,
nothing else.
exactly.
Okay, guys, thanks
Thank
a
you,
lot for
friend.
watching. See you later. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.